My name is Daniel. I'm an IT professional. For the past few years, I'd been living in the US, working hard, sending money back home, doing everything I could to stay connected to my roots. But deep down, I always missed my family, especially my little sister, Emma. When I finally came back to England after 4 long years, I was full of emotions, excited to be home again, to see everyone, to make things feel whole. So I decided to throw a family dinner. I invited all my relatives over, one big, happy reunion. But one person didn't come. Emma. My baby sister. I called her, and when she picked up, her voice was quiet. Sad. Almost trembling. She said, "Your wife told me not to come." Those words hit me like a punch to the chest. She tried to brush it off, said she was struggling with money, that it was fine, but I could hear the pain in her voice. And something inside me cracked. I looked at Julia, my wife, and without saying a word, I walked into the kitchen. I packed a few food containers myself, one with warm rice and pastries, the other with dried fruits and nuts, and headed straight to Emma's house. I needed to see her. When I reached her place, the lights were off. The house was locked. I tried calling her again, no signal. Disappointed, I turned back toward the car, and that's when I saw something I'll never forget. There, in the cold, dim streetlight, stood Emma. With her children. In a line. Waiting for free food. I stopped in my tracks. My heart sank. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to scream. This was my sister. My family. And I had no idea. Rewind a bit. When I first arrived home earlier that week, everything felt perfect. My kids came running, "Daddy's home." And I scooped them into my arms. Julia smiled and said, "The house never felt whole without you." The rooms were glowing with warm light, the smell of dinner filled the air, guests were laughing, stories were being shared. But through all that joy, I was looking for one person. Emma. I leaned toward Julia and asked, "Hey, didn't Emma come?" She shrugged. "Maybe she's around. There are a lot of people. I haven't seen everyone yet." I nodded, but the feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. Later that night, as the guests started leaving, I asked again, "Are you sure Emma didn't come?" Julia replied, "Maybe she couldn't make it. She might have been tired or had too much to do at home." I didn't say much after that, but inside, I was restless. This was the same Emma who once clung to me and said, "Don't go to America, Dada. I'll be all alone." I never forgot that moment. And every holiday, every time I sent money back home, I made sure to say, "Julia, make sure Emma gets her share." She always told me, "Yes, I gave it to her." She was happy. She even prayed for you. And I believed her. But now, standing in my own home, after 4 years, Emma was just gone. No hug. No blessing. No smile. Nothing. That night, after everything quieted down, I told Julia, "I'm going to see Emma." She said, "Now? It's late. Just go tomorrow." But I couldn't wait. I packed those food boxes with my own hands and said, "This is for my sister. I want her to know her brother made this for her." I drove through the dark, familiar streets, but all I could think about was Emma. And when I reached the old house, the one our mother left for her, it was locked. Empty. Until I saw her. And I wish I hadn't. She wasn't home. She was in line. With her kids. Begging for food. And I froze. In that moment, something inside me shifted. I knew nothing was okay. And I knew I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. A hopeful thought crossed my mind as I reached Emma's street. Maybe she'll open the door, hug me tight, and smile like nothing ever changed. Maybe, just for a moment, it'll feel like those lost years never happened. But when I stood at her front door, I froze. The house was locked. The door was rusted. The whole place looked like it hadn't been touched in years. I just stood there. Some part of me still held on to hope. Maybe she stepped out. Maybe she'll be back soon. But the silence said everything. I placed my hand gently on the cold lock. No answer. I looked around. The same steps where we used to sit and talk. The same porch where Mom would light a small lamp in the evenings. But now, it all felt lifeless. That's when I noticed a plant by the doorway. It used to be green, full of life. Now it was dry, shriveled, forgotten. Something inside me cracked. I closed my eyes, and just like that, I was pulled back into a memory, the day I left for America. Emma had held my hand at this very doorstep. "Big brother, please don't go," she had said. "I'll be all alone." I turned around and looked up and down the street. No one. The neighborhood felt like it had been paused, as if life left the moment that house was locked. Far in the distance, a stray dog sniffed around a pile of trash. The night breeze carried a smell I couldn't explain, dust, dampness, and sorrow. I sat down on the old steps, my heart heavy. I took out my phone and called Julia. "Julia, Emma's house is locked. Didn't you say she was in Manchester?" She sounded half asleep. "Yeah, maybe. I don't really remember. Haven't spoken to her in a while. But you always said you visited her every week." "I did, before. I've just been busy lately. That didn't sit right." I ended the call. Something felt off. Her answers were vague, distant, like she was dodging something. I picked up the containers I had packed with so much love and began to walk back to the car. But each step felt heavier than the last. My mind wouldn't stop. Emma's tired eyes, her soft, trembling voice on the phone. If she was okay, why didn't she come to the party? A sister would do anything to welcome her brother home. Then why this emptiness? When I got home, Julia was asleep on the couch. I quietly placed the containers on the table and sat beside her. Softly, I asked, "Julia, if you know anything about Emma, please tell me the truth. Something doesn't feel right." She didn't even open her eyes. Just muttered, "You're overthinking, Daniel. Ask someone tomorrow. You're tired, just rest." I nodded, but I knew sleep wasn't coming tonight. I walked to the fridge, gently placed the food inside, and whispered to myself, "I'll give it to her myself." But one question kept ringing in my heart, where's Emma, really? I stood by the window, staring out at the sky. The moonlight lit up the branches outside, swaying gently in the wind. Like they were trying to tell me something. Or pull me back to a past I didn't want to face. And then, more memories came. But this time, they weren't just memories, they were doubts. "Julia, I had sent £30,000 last year for gun putty. You gave it to her, right?" She had smiled and said, "Yes, Daniel. I gave it to her." She was so happy. Same line. Every time. And every time, I believed her. I felt peace, knowing my sister was being looked after. But tonight, something inside me said, it's time to find out the truth. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I walked over to the storage cabinet. In the back corner, behind some old files, I found it, an old folder with bold letters that read, "Transfers, Emma." I sat down on the floor and opened it slowly. Inside were receipts, handwritten notes, and transfer slips. Bank wires. Holiday remittances. Western Union forms. Each note had something scribbled beside it: help for sister, festival gift, medical aid, holiday shopping. The oldest one was dated 2019, the first year I sent money from the US. I flipped through the records. Every Diwali, at least 30,000 rupees had gone home. Julia used to tell me stories. I took Emma shopping. She bought new clothes, sandals, even picked out a necklace she loved. And every time, I pictured Emma walking through a festive market, smiling, free, happy. But now, holding those receipts in my hand, none of it made sense anymore. Because the last time I thought I saw her, near a railway station in the dead of night, she didn't look happy. She looked tired. Lost. Like life had wrung her out. If she really received all that help, then why did she look like that? If she'd gone shopping and celebrated festivals, why did her eyes look like they hadn't known joy in years? A cold weight settled in my chest. Something was terribly wrong. And this time, I could feel it deep in my bones. The more I looked through those receipts, the heavier it all felt. By the next morning, I was unusually quiet. My kids hugged me, laughed, played around the breakfast table, but I couldn't focus. My mind was somewhere far away. Julia was in the kitchen, going through her usual morning routine. I cleared my throat. "Yesterday's dinner party went well," I said. "Everyone loved it." She smiled without looking up. "Yeah. It was nice." Then, I paused, and asked softly, "Julia, can I ask you something?" She turned. "Of course." I lowered my voice. "The money I used to send during the holidays, for Emma, did you really give it to her?" She froze. Just for a second. Then her tone changed. Defensive. "What kind of question is that, Daniel? Are you seriously doubting me now?" I stayed calm. "It's not that I don't trust you, it's just, something's off. I haven't seen her. Her house is locked up. And I can't shake this feeling, like something happened." Julia snapped. "I'm your wife, not some outsider. If you can't even trust me, what does that say about our marriage?" "This isn't about us," I said quietly. "It's about Emma. I just want to be sure that she didn't fall through the cracks while I was gone." She didn't reply. She just turned and walked back into the kitchen. I didn't press. I let it go. But inside me, regret had already turned into something heavier, guilt. And it was burning. Later that evening, I was running errands in town when I bumped into an old neighbor, someone from Emma's old neighborhood. We shook hands, and I asked him, "Hey, do you know anything about Emma? You live near her, right?" He looked puzzled at first, then frowned. "Emma? Honestly, Daniel, I haven't seen her in a long time. Not since her husband died." My heart skipped a beat. "Her husband died?" "Yeah," he said. "He wasn't well, emotionally, mentally. He passed not long after they got married." He looked away for a second. "After that, Emma disappeared. Some people say she left on her own. Others say she was forced out. No one really knows." It felt like the ground beneath me shifted. I tried to hold it together while he kept speaking. She was always so quiet. So gentle. It's heartbreaking, man. It's like someone just erased her from her own life. Took everything from her. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not a second. Emma's face haunted me. Her tired eyes, the unopened food containers I'd packed with my own hands. That folder full of receipts, filled with good intentions, and now, maybe, with betrayal. My mind kept going in circles, and one thought hit me harder than anything else. I trusted Julia. I believed I was helping Emma. I thought she was being looked after. But what if none of that help ever reached her? 3 days went by. Every evening, I drove over to Emma's old house. I brought food with me, carefully packed, made with love. I stood outside her door, waited quietly, and then drove back home. Each time, my heart whispered the same thing: maybe today she'll answer. Maybe today I'll hear, "Big brother, you're here." But that door never opened. The silence stayed the same. And the questions, they only grew louder. By the 4th day, I'd had enough. The worry I'd been carrying inside had turned into something sharper. It wasn't just concern anymore, it was pain. Real, aching pain. That evening, as the last bit of daylight faded, I stood once again outside Emma's home. The same rusted lock stared back at me. But this time, I didn't look at the door. I looked around, at the neighboring houses that had stood next to Emma's all these years. They had to know something. They had seen everything. I took a deep breath, walked to the house next door, and rang the doorbell. A middle-aged woman opened it. She looked surprised. "Hi, ma'am. I'm Daniel, Emma's brother," I said. She blinked, then gave a small nod. "Yes. I remember you. It's been a long time." "It has," I said quietly. I live in the US. Just came back a few days ago. I've been stopping by Emma's house, but it's always locked. Do you know where she went? She sighed. A long, tired sigh. Son, that house has been empty for a while now. My stomach tightened. How long? Months, she said. Maybe 8, 9. At first, I'd see a light on once in a while. But lately? Nothing. No sign of anyone. My chest felt tight. And her husband? Her kids? Her expression turned serious. Her husband was very sick. I heard he passed away nearly 2 years ago. And Emma? She left soon after. Some folks say she was kicked out, others say she left on her own. Nobody knows for sure. But she hasn't lived here since. I couldn't breathe for a second. Everything I had believed was crumbling right there on that doorstep. Did my wife, Julia, ever visit her? I asked, my voice barely steady. The woman paused. She used to, at the beginning. But in the last couple years? Not once. It felt like something inside me broke. I turned and walked away. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't thank her. I just walked, like someone retreating from a battle I hadn't even realized I was in. When I got home, I didn't hold back. I walked in and called out, loud and sharp, Julia. Tell me, where's Emma? She looked up from the couch, startled. I already told you, maybe she went to Manchester. Maybe? I asked. But you're not sure. She crossed her arms. Daniel, are you accusing me of something? I'm not accusing you, I said. I'm looking for my sister. Her house has been locked for months. Neighbors say she disappeared, or was thrown out. And the only thing you can offer me is a maybe? She wouldn't meet my eyes. Daniel, why are you even digging this up? Focus on what matters, your kids, your home, your life. I stared at her. I am focusing on my family. Emma is my family. My voice cracked as the words came out. She cried once when I left, and said, Big brother, don't go. I left anyway. And now I'm back, and she's gone. No one knows where. Not even you? That night, Julia didn't say a word. But her silence, it spoke volumes. To me, it felt like a quiet confession, the kind that doesn't need words. I sat alone in the dark, staring at my phone. No messages. No calls. No sign of Emma. Nothing. I whispered to the quiet around me, Emma, if you were ever angry with me, I understand. If you tried to speak and no one listened, I'm sorry. If you stayed silent so long that you forgot how to speak at all, I'm sorry. Tears filled my eyes. Because my greatest fear was that I had come back too late. By morning, I still hadn't slept. But Julia? She was in the kitchen again, flipping eggs, pouring juice, like nothing had happened. I stood there watching her for a while. Then I spoke, calm, but with a strength even I hadn't felt before. Julia, I'm going to ask again. Where is Emma? She glanced at me like I'd asked what time it was. I already told you, she might have gone to Manchester. Might have? I asked. You're not even sure? Julia shrugged. How can I be sure, Daniel? It's not like we spoke every single day. I took a step closer. But you said you gave her money every month. If you were helping her regularly, surely you must have known where she lived, right? Julia frowned. Why are you interrogating me like I'm on trial? I'm your wife. And that's when I raised my voice. For the first time. For 4 days, I've been searching for my sister. And all I've gotten from you is maybe. That's not enough anymore. Do you know where she is or not? Just say it. Julia froze. I saw the fear flicker in her eyes. I already told you the truth, she muttered. Why are you acting like I'm lying? Because every time you speak, I said, it feels like a lie. And I'm done with lies. I want the truth. Julia shoved her chair back and stood. So now I'm a liar? Is that what this is? If you cared so much about Emma, why'd you leave her behind? You moved to America, left everything on me, while you chased your perfect little dream. Her words hit hard. I didn't yell. I didn't defend myself. I just looked her in the eyes and said, yes, I left. But I never abandoned her. I sent money every single month, for clothes, medicine, food, dignity. Every holiday, I sent enough to make her smile. And you told me you gave it to her, yourself. Was that true, Julia? She turned her face away. Her voice was barely audible. I don't remember anymore, she said. When, how much, all the numbers just blurred. I didn't flinch. Julia, I said gently, if you've done something wrong, I'll still forgive you. I'm not here for revenge. I just want to find my sister. Please, tell me where she is. There was a long, heavy pause. And then finally, she spoke. Her voice cracked. I saw her a few months ago, she said. She looked really sick. Frail. My heart began pounding. Where? I asked. Near the downtown market, she said. Outside that old thrift store. She was standing alone, maybe trying to buy something. I couldn't believe it. And why didn't you tell me that before? I asked. She looked down. I didn't think it mattered. You were so far away. And Emma, she didn't even look like she could speak. I stared at her, horrified. You just saw her, like that, and walked away? And then let me believe everything was fine? You never told me her husband died. You never told me she was alone. Why, Julia? Why would you hide that from me? I did what I thought was best, she said softly. And I just lowered my head. The weight of it all. The betrayal. The loss. You didn't just break my trust, I whispered. You may have destroyed my sister's life. In the corner of the room, the ceiling fan turned slowly. Its soft, rhythmic hum the only sound in the silence. But I didn't hear it. All I could hear was her voice. Dada, don't go. That tearful whisper, the last thing Emma said to me before I left, now echoed like a blade slicing through my chest. I stood up. Enough. Julia, I said calmly, if you won't tell me the truth, I'll find it myself. This isn't over, not until I find Emma. Even if I have to walk every single street in this city, I will find her. In that moment, something inside me shifted. A quiet clarity settled over my heart. Something had been hidden for a long, long time. But not for much longer. Morning light spilled through the window. It landed gently across my face, warm but heavy with memory. Then, the phone rang. The sound cut through the room like a siren. My heart stopped. I looked at the screen, frozen. Because that ringtone took me back. 2 years ago. 2 a.m. in the US. I was tired, just about to shut my laptop, when Julia called on WhatsApp. She sounded upbeat. Too upbeat. Daniel, she said, I have good news. Emma got a marriage proposal. The guy's simple, got a job. A little physically weak, but seems okay. I was groggy. Did you talk to Emma about it? Julia's voice was quick. Yes. I did. She agreed too. We don't get good proposals often. I said yes. You're not coming anyway, right? I hesitated. I should have asked more. Pressed harder. But I didn't. If you say so. I mumbled. When the call ended, I just stared at my screen. I was uneasy, something didn't sit right. But I told myself, Julia's smart. She knows what's best. She's family. And I let it go. A few days later, photos came in. Emma's wedding. I opened them slowly. One by one. There she was, a bride. But her eyes. Empty. Her smile was there, but not real. Her face held no joy, no glow. It looked like something had been stolen. And never returned. I kept staring. Zooming in on her face. Her eyes. Her hands. And a question burned in my chest. Is this really Emma? My little sister who used to run into my arms. The same one who said, "Dada, don't go." Back then, I brushed it off. Maybe it was the lighting. Maybe she was just tired. But now, those photos hit me like knives. I walked over to the closet, pulled out the folder, the one where I kept those wedding pictures, as if keeping them safe made up for not being there. I sat down, held them in my hands, and looked again. Emma, in bridal red. But her face was lowered. Her eyes, lifeless. Her whole body, stiff, like she was standing on broken glass. Around her were women, some of Julia's relatives, some strangers. But no one looked like family. No warm hand on her shoulder. No mother's hug. No father's pride. Just Emma, in a crowd full of people. Completely alone. I touched the photo gently. Why didn't I come back? I whispered. Why didn't I stay? I had excuses. Deadlines. Visa rules. Flight costs. But they were just that, excuses. Nothing justified missing that. I left her alone, I thought. In her most painful moments. And maybe that choice rewrote her entire life in darkness. Then, a sudden realization hit me. Since that wedding, not once had I heard Emma's voice. Not a single call. Not even a quick hello. All these years, I had never spoken to my own sister. Not directly. And I had never once questioned why. Every time I called, it was Julia who picked up. Emma's in the kitchen right now. She's resting. She's not feeling well. I'll ask her to call later. But the call never came. And I never questioned it. I buried my face in my hands. How was I so blind? I whispered. How did I miss all the signs? And still, I kept trusting. Every single time. But now, from somewhere deep inside me, the truth was loud. Clear. Undeniable. Emma's marriage. It was never about love. It wasn't her choice. It was just a quick fix. A way for Julia to shift the burden. To remove Emma from the picture. To finally live her life without my sister in it. I saw it all now. Crystal clear. Julia had forced the wedding. Emma's wishes didn't matter. The man wasn't right for her. But none of that mattered, because to Julia, it meant one thing. Freedom. From responsibility. From inconvenience. From Emma. All those doubts I once carried, they weren't doubts anymore. They were facts. Sharp. Bitter. Final. She must have tried to reach out to me, I thought, my chest tightening. She must have cried silently, waiting for a moment, a window, anything. But her voice never reached me. And Julia. She made sure of that. I closed the photo folder, my hands trembling, and slid it back onto the shelf. But inside me, something had changed. A fire. A purpose. I would not stay silent anymore. I would find Emma. And I would help her reclaim everything. Her voice. Her dignity. Her life. That night, for the first time in years, I folded my hands and prayed. Not out of routine, but truly, with every ounce of pain in my heart. God, bring my sister back to me. Give me the strength to fight for her. To give her back what the world stole from her, her pride, her peace, her smile. It was the beginning of August. The air was thick with summer warmth, but the evenings held a strange stillness, almost spiritual. The local chapel near our street hosted small night gatherings, soft hymns, candlelight, quiet prayers. I had started going. Every night. There, sitting on a wooden bench near the altar, I'd close my eyes. Let the incense float around me. And pour my pain into whispered words only God could hear. That night was no different. I walked a few blocks to the chapel. My thoughts were loud, but my lips carried only one silent cry. God, just let me see Emma again. Please. After the prayers ended, I stepped outside. The scent of burning candles and incense still lingered. A peaceful air surrounded me. But not inside. My heart was restless. I walked toward the community square near the chapel. They often held food drives and charity events there. Tonight, the crowd was massive. A white van was parked at the edge. Its back doors flung open. An elderly man stood handing out meal boxes wrapped in thin plastic. People pushed, shouted, reached out desperately. "I've got 3 kids. I didn't get any food yesterday. Please, just one more box." The chaos kept growing. And then, someone shoved too hard. A little boy stumbled and hit the ground. His forehead struck the pavement hard. A sharp cry rang out. A woman screamed, "The boy's hurt." The crowd went still for a second. People stepped back. I ran. The child, he was crying, trembling, holding his head. Blood trickled from his forehead. He screamed out, in pain, "Mom! Mom!" I dropped to my knees beside him. My hands fumbled for my phone, ready to call for help. Just then, she came. From the far end of the alley, a woman. Thin. Frail. Wearing a faded, dust-covered dress. Her face streaked with dirt. Her eyes wide with panic. She rushed in like wind, from the direction of the low-income housing units nearby. Without a second's hesitation, she scooped the boy into her arms. Held him close. And with the edge of her worn shawl, gently wiped the blood from his forehead. I froze. Something about her. The way she held him. The way her hands trembled. The way her eyes carried a pain that didn't belong to this moment alone. Could it be? Was it her? Was it Emma? "Shoo, don't cry, baby. It's just a little cut," she whispered. And in that moment, I froze. I looked at her face, and the entire world vanished. That face. Those eyes. That voice. It was her. Emma. My heart stopped. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't move, couldn't believe what I was seeing. I stumbled forward, my voice cracking. "Emma! Emma! It's me, Daniel. Your brother." She looked up, startled. Her eyes widened. There was fear, confusion, and for a fleeting second, a flicker of recognition. But then, she clutched the boy tighter. And ran. Ran, straight back toward the slums. "Emma! Wait! It's me, your brother." She didn't stop. Not even once. She didn't look back. I ran after her, pushing through the crowd, weaving through narrow lanes, shouting her name into the chaos. But it was no use. The alley swallowed her. The darkness took her in. And just like that, she was gone again. I reached a row of makeshift shelters, plastic sheets stretched over crooked wooden frames, barely held together. The air smelled of damp earth and despair. People stared. Exhausted faces. Empty eyes. But not hers. Emma was gone. I dropped to my knees. Dust rose around me. I buried my face in my hands and sobbed. Oh God, my sister, living like this? In these broken streets? Covered in dirt? Fighting for scraps of food, raising a child in filth? Reduced to this? And me? I had actually believed she was happy. For 4 years, I lived in peace. Believing lies. Believing Julia. I stood up slowly. My hands shook as I brushed the dirt from my trousers. I turned back once more, looked into the shadows where my sister had vanished. With each step I took away from that place, my heart pounded louder. Julia, what did you do? What did you let happen while I was gone? Did you really leave her to rot in the streets? Something inside me snapped. This was no longer a search. This was war. I stormed into the house. The door slammed behind me. Julia sat on the couch, her eyes glued to her phone. She didn't even look up. But I didn't wait. My voice tore through the room like thunder. I saw her. Silence. I saw Emma with my own eyes. And now, Julia. I want the truth. All of it. Julia's eyes widened. Fear. Guilt. She didn't even try to hide it. But I had no tears left. Only rage. And resolve. Outside, the city still slept under night silence. But inside me, I was burning. I couldn't stop seeing her face, Emma's pale skin, her frightened eyes. The blood on her child's forehead. That image wouldn't let me rest. Sleep never came. I tossed. Turned. Cursed the darkness. When dawn finally broke, I stood at the window. Closed my eyes. And prayed. God. I know I failed her once. I stayed away. I stayed quiet. But not anymore. If silence helped bury her, then my voice will bring her back. Back in the living room, Julia hadn't moved. She was still on the sofa. Still pale. Still trembling. She couldn't meet my eyes. Because now, my eyes weren't asking. They were demanding. I stepped forward, voice cold, firm. Julia. Enough. I want the truth. Not later. Not tomorrow. Now. She sat frozen. Then, something inside her broke. Her eyes glistened, not with sadness, but guilt. She looked away. And finally whispered, when you moved to the U.S. Emma became very lonely. I tried to take care of her at first. I really did. But then, things changed. My relatives started visiting more. The neighbors started whispering. Gossip? I snapped. You were worried about gossip more than my sister's dignity? Julia flinched, but she kept talking, eyes closed. People kept whispering. She said. They said it didn't look right, an unmarried girl living in her brother's house without a man around. I felt ashamed. I thought, if she had a home of her own, maybe it would stop. My fists clenched. But she didn't stop. A man came with a proposal. He was a cab driver, worked long hours, no family. I thought, at least she'd have a roof over her head. A place to belong. There wasn't time to talk to you. You were so far away. No time? Or did you already know I'd say no? My voice cracked. The pain slipped through before I could hold it back. Julia shut her eyes tight, and her face fell. Emma begged me, she whispered. She said she didn't want to marry. She cried. She pleaded. But I told her, this is what's best for you. Your brother's in another country, he can't help you now. And then, her voice broke. I forced her into it. Something inside me shattered. You forced her? I collapsed into a chair. My hands covered my face. My heart felt like it had been torn open. Julia's voice was shaking now, thick with regret. A few months later, her husband died. A stroke. She was alone again. And I said to her, go back to your in-laws. I can't let you stay here. I have my own kids, guests come over, and a young widow, looking so sad all the time, people will start asking questions. I looked up. My eyes burned through her. You mean, you threw her out? I didn't mean harm, Julia cried. I didn't want trouble. I was thinking about my own convenience. My voice turned to steel. I left my sister in your care, I said, rising to my feet, and you destroyed her life. I slammed my palm against the wall. You married her off to a sick cab driver. And when he died, you kicked her out. Then you lied, told me she moved to Manchester. Said she was fine. I stepped closer. My voice dropped into a growl. You betrayed my trust. You destroyed our family. My fists were shaking. My breath was sharp. My head was spinning. All she ever wanted was love. A little peace. And you gave her pain. You taught her how to suffer. Julia didn't answer. She just wept. The room went silent. The weight of everything sat like iron between us. Finally, I spoke again. Softer this time. But colder. I saw her, Julia. I saw Emma. She was standing in a food line, covered in dirt, holding a child. Her face filled with fear. That wasn't the Emma I grew up with. That wasn't the Emma who danced in this kitchen, who sang when she cleaned, who used to laugh at my stupid jokes. That was the Emma you abandoned. The one you threw to the streets. Julia wiped her face, voice trembling. Daniel. I'm ashamed. I didn't blink. Shame, I said, doesn't put food on her table. Shame won't send her child to school. And it sure as hell won't heal the fear in her eyes. I turned away. Forgiveness? I said. No, you'll answer for what you did, in this life, in the next. And I walked out of that room. My chest felt crushed. My thoughts ran wild. My soul ached. But my purpose was clear. Emma hadn't just fallen on hard times. She was pushed, betrayed, broken. And I had one goal now, justice. Even if I had to cut ties with everyone. Even if I had to walk alone. I was going to fight for her. On the edge of the city was a slum. I'd never been there. I had only known clean streets, glass offices, quiet homes. But today I stepped into filth. Into broken alleys. Into the places people avoid. And I walked on, not caring about the stench, or the mud, or the shadows. Because my sister was somewhere in that darkness. And I was not leaving without her. Because this was where the truth had been hiding all along. In my hand, I carried a small grocery bag, just a few cookies, juice boxes, and a clean dress for Emma. That's all I could think of. That's all I could bring. But my heart, it was full of prayers. As I walked through the narrow, broken lanes of that slum, tears blurred my vision. Emma! I called out, standing outside a half-collapsed hut. Emma, it's me. Daniel. Your brother. No answer. Just a faint, soft cough from inside. I stepped closer. Peered through the open doorway. It wasn't even a room, just 4 dirty walls, a cracked clay stove in one corner, 2 chipped bowls, a torn blanket on the floor. And then, I saw her. She sat like a shadow against the wall. Hair tangled. Skin pale. Eyes empty. And right beside her was a little boy, his belly swollen with hunger, his face thin and lifeless. My heart shattered again. Emma. I whispered. She blinked slowly. Her face uncertain, like she couldn't trust her own eyes. And then, her lips trembled. And she whispered the one word I had waited years to hear. Daniel. She broke. Her body shook as sobs burst from her chest. Tears poured down her cheeks. She cried like a child, the weight of silence, pain, and abandonment finally breaking free. I ran to her. I dropped to my knees and pulled her into my arms. Emma, my sweet sister. I'm here now. I'm so sorry. I came too late. She buried her face into my shirt and cried even harder. Each sob, a dagger in my heart. Daniel. She wept. Why did you leave me? I was all alone. Everyone turned away. Even you didn't come. Tears rolled down my face. No, Emma, no. I never meant to leave you. I thought you were okay. Julia, she kept saying you were fine. I believed her. I was blind, but not anymore. I see now. I'm here, Emma. I'm here. Her son suddenly began crying again. Without thinking, I pulled out a juice box from my bag, pierced the straw, and handed it to him. He drank it hungrily, like he hadn't had anything in days. I gave Emma some water. Her hands trembled as she took it. Have you eaten anything? I asked softly. She shook her head. Nothing since yesterday. I couldn't find any work. The sun hadn't risen yet. But a fire had already lit inside me. You've been living here all alone? Emma's voice was barely a whisper. Some kind people helped. A little. But there's shame. So much shame. People whisper. They judge. I only live for my son now. I gently placed my hand on her head. Not anymore, Emma. No more shame. No more suffering. You're coming home with me, today. She looked up at me, wide-eyed, unsure. You'll take me with you? But, what about Julia? I shook my head. There's no Julia in this anymore, I said. She made her choices. Now I'm making mine. And my choice is you. I'm bringing you back. To give you the life you were robbed of. Emma clutched my hand tightly. And for the first time in years, she smiled. It was small. Fragile. But it was real. A smile that said, I'm not alone anymore. I stood up and looked around that tiny, broken hut one last time. The place where my sister had fought, suffered, and survived. And I made her a promise, one I whispered with tears in my eyes. Emma, from this moment on, your past is done. You've cried enough. Now, it's your time to live. To heal. To be happy. And with that, we walked away together, toward the first rays of a new morning. Toward justice. Toward light. Toward everything she had been denied. Because Julia hadn't just taken away Emma's home. She had stolen her identity. But not anymore. Now, Daniel was here. And Emma would rise again. The sky was still gray. But inside me, something had changed forever. A light had begun to rise. Not in the sky, but in my heart. Emma was walking beside me, still weak, still fragile, her past still written in her eyes. But this time, she wasn't alone. I held her hand tightly. And in my other arm, I carried her child. We reached the front door just as the first rays of morning kissed the ground. Julia was standing there. The moment she saw us, everything in her face shifted, surprise, fear, guilt. She turned pale. Frozen. Like a statue cracking from within. I didn't say a word. I walked right past her. Straight into the house. My sister didn't need to see one more moment of judgment. I settled Emma on the guest bed, wrapped her in a warm blanket, gave her water, and laid Noah down gently beside her. Then I turned to Julia. Julia, I said, my voice steady, calm, but firm. I've made my decision. And this time, there's nothing left to talk about. She closed her eyes like a storm was about to hit her. I'm divorcing you. She stumbled, gripping the wall. What? Daniel, are you serious? You can't mean this. I didn't blink. I've never been more certain in my life. You betrayed everything I stood for. You destroyed Emma. You starved her, silenced her, abandoned her. She began to cry. Yes, I made mistakes, but isn't this too much? No, Julia, I said quietly. This isn't punishment. This is justice. The years I spent trusting you, that was your share. But the years Emma spent suffering, crying alone, that pain now demands a price. And that price begins, right now. I pulled out my phone, dialed my lawyer. And with one call, I closed a chapter that had nearly destroyed my sister's life. But more importantly, I opened a new one. A chapter of healing. Of dignity. Of hope. The next few days? They were a mission. I took Emma to the clinic. After some tests, the doctor looked at me, his face heavy. She has severe deficiencies, he said. Iron. Protein. She's underweight. Her meds have caused damage. But with rest, care, and love, she'll recover. I nodded. She'll get all of that. And more. I got to work. I turned our spare room into a peaceful haven. Soft lights. Clean bed sheets. Calming colors. I cooked every meal myself. I gave her medicine. Sat by her side. And whispered every night, "You're safe now, Emma. You'll never go hungry again. You'll never be left behind." Her son, Noah, was quiet but wise beyond his years. I enrolled him in the nearby school. I filled out every form. Met every teacher. And on his first day, he held my hand tight and looked up with those big, searching eyes. "Uncle, you won't leave me here alone, will you?" I knelt, kissed his forehead. "No, son. Never again." Emma began to heal. Slowly, gently, her color returned. Her voice grew stronger. There were still shadows under her eyes, but behind those shadows, there was peace. In the evenings, she'd sit quietly in the front yard, watching the sky. Sometimes, I'd catch her smiling at nothing, like she was finally remembering how to live again. But one evening, I came home with a small gift, a new dress for her, and a warm shawl. And there she was, sitting on the couch, silent, still, tears running down her cheeks. In her hands, an old, dusty file. That evening, when I walked into the room, I noticed Emma sitting quietly, her eyes red, an old, dusty file clutched in her hands. "What's that, Emma?" I asked gently. She didn't speak right away, just wiped her tears and looked down. "Daniel, this is Mom's house file. It used to be in my name." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, the same house you were living in after I left, right?" She gave a tiny nod. "Yes, but it's not in my name anymore." I felt a strange chill run down my spine. "What do you mean?" Emma hesitated, like the words themselves hurt to say. "After my husband died, and you were in America, one day Julia came over. She said it was hard to manage the property. She gave me some papers, said I just had to sign for convenience." She looked up, guilt clouding her face. I didn't understand what they were. I was grieving. I didn't ask questions. I just signed. My heartbeat quickened. I took the file from her trembling hands and opened it. And there it was. Ownership transfer from Emma Grace Walker to Julia N. Walker. It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. "She took the house from you?" I whispered. Emma nodded, her eyes filled with shame. "I thought maybe you had told her to." I didn't want to doubt her. I sat frozen, my fists slowly tightening. "No, Emma. I never told her anything. Ever. That house was yours. She didn't just take your home, she stole your last bit of security. The only thing you had left." That moment was a turning point in my soul. Julia hadn't just lied. She'd erased Emma's name, her dignity, her rights. This wasn't just about family anymore. This was war. I gently held Emma's hand and made her a promise, a vow, one I carved into my heart. "Whatever she took from you, I'll get it back. Every single thing. That's my word." Emma looked up at me, and this time, it wasn't a fragile smile. It was solid. Confident. She believed me. She knew now, I wasn't leaving again. That night, as everyone slept peacefully for the first time in years, I sat alone at the dining table. No sadness. Just purpose. Old files, receipts, property documents, all spread out before me like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle I was finally ready to solve. And just when I thought I'd seen it all, another thought hit me like lightning. The jewelry. Mom's heirloom jewelry. And all the gold I had sent over the years from overseas for Emma. I rushed to Emma's room. "Emma, the jewelry Mom gave you, and the pieces I sent, where are they?" She looked away for a second, then whispered, "It was all with Julia. She said she'd keep it safe. During my wedding, and after. I never asked for it again. And when I was thrown out of the house, I never saw any of it." I felt my fists clench again. How deep did this betrayal run? I opened my laptop, grabbed my phone, pulled out every record I could find, photos of the jewelry, purchase bills, shipping receipts, and even WhatsApp screenshots Julia herself had sent years ago with captions like, "Kept safely for Emma." I printed everything. Then the next morning, without hesitation, I walked into my lawyer's office and laid it all out. I also visited the local property office. Explained every detail, showed every document. The legal process began that day. No more waiting. No more silence. No more maybe later. This time, justice wasn't just a word. It was a mission. And I wasn't backing down, not now, not ever. A few days later, Julia received the court notice. And then, she came to my door. Her face was pale, her hands trembling, but her voice still full of pride. "I can't believe you'd go this far, Daniel. You dragged me to court?" I stood still, calm, controlled. But inside, I was a storm. "No, Julia. You dragged yourself. The one who steals from a sister, who robs her of her rights, that's who truly stoops low. I'm just helping her reclaim what's already hers." She shook her head, desperate. "But Emma's with you now. She has a roof, a bed, some respect. Isn't that enough?" I looked her straight in the eyes. "I don't want enough, Julia. I want justice. The house. The jewelry. Everything you took. That's what this is about. Our marriage. Your reputation. They may never return. But her dignity will." The legal battle moved fast. I made sure of it. My lawyer and I built a case with everything we had: receipts, documents, old messages, even photos Julia herself had sent over the years. She tried to lie at first. But when the truth was laid bare, black and white, undeniable, she fell silent. And the court gave its verdict. All rights to the house and the jewelry would be returned to Emma Grace Walker. Every signature she was tricked into, declared invalid. That day, I came home with the official judgment file in my hands. Emma was in the kitchen, helping Noah with his homework. I quietly walked over and placed the file in her lap. "This is yours, Emma. And now, it's back where it belongs." Her hands trembled. Her eyes flooded with tears. "I never asked for anything, Daniel. All I ever wanted was you." I sat beside her and placed my hand gently on her head. "I know, Emma, but this isn't just about love. This is about justice. And now, that justice is yours." A few days later, I did something I never imagined myself doing. I booked the local community hall and invited everyone: family, relatives, neighbors, even the elders. Over 100 people came. They all thought I was going to give some big speech about a legal win. But I had something very different in mind. Emma sat quietly in the front row, dressed simply, but with pride in her eyes. I stood on stage, file in my hand, but more than that, I held a burning question in my heart. I looked around the hall. And I spoke. "I'm not here to talk about winning a case," I said. "I'm here to ask you something painful. Why is it that a woman so often becomes the worst enemy of another woman?" The hall went still. I saw people shift uncomfortably in their seats. Is sisterhood so fragile that it can be torn apart by ego? Jealousy? Fear? Is a wife only meant to serve her husband, or is she also meant to protect his home when he's not around? Nobody answered. So I kept going. My sister, Emma, was pushed into the streets. She stood in food lines, slept in huts. And I believed she was doing just fine. Why? Because my wife said so. Every day, she said, everything's fine. But the truth? She took everything. Her house. Her jewelry. Her identity. Her peace. My voice trembled, but I kept it steady. We men, we make mistakes. And yes, we're blamed. Rightfully so. But when a woman betrays another woman, when a sister-in-law, a mother-in-law, a sister, turns her back, where's the blame then? Who speaks for the Emma in every home? Who defends her? I paused. And then I said what I had carried in my heart since the day I found my sister standing in that food line. I found my Emma again. I brought her home. I brought her dignity back. But outside this hall, in your streets, your neighborhoods, there are thousands of Emmas. Suffocating. Not because of strangers, but because the women they trusted turned against them. I looked around one last time. If there's an Emma in your home, too, don't turn your face away. Don't let silence destroy her. Speak. Act. Do what's right before it's too late. She might not say much, but deep inside, she might be completely broken. I looked across that room, right into the eyes of the women sitting before me, and I spoke from a place I never knew existed inside me. If you're a woman, reach out to another woman. If she's fallen, help her up. Don't be the one who pushes her further down. Because that bond, that moment when one woman holds another woman's hand, that's what makes us truly human. The entire hall fell completely silent. Not a whisper. Not a breath. Just stillness. At the very back, standing quietly, was Emma. Her eyes were filled with tears. But for the first time in years, they weren't from pain, they were from pride. Her story hadn't ended here. No, it had just begun. This was the start of a new chapter. A chapter where she didn't have to hide anymore. A chapter where no one could silence her, break her, or strip her of her name. A chapter where her dignity, her identity, and her voice were finally hers again. And maybe, just maybe, if you're listening to this right now, there's someone in your life whose story you haven't heard yet. Someone whose pain has gone unnoticed. This story, it holds a truth that's too important to ignore. We must never blindly believe what others tell us about the people we love. We must look. We must listen. With our own eyes. Our own hearts. And we must choose empathy over comfort, kindness over silence. Because a woman's true beauty? It's not in her clothes. Not in how loud she speaks. It's in the strength she shows when she lifts another woman up. It's in the courage she shows when no one else will stand. And it's in the quiet kindness that says, you're not alone. If this story moved you, if it touched even a small corner of your heart, please like it. Share it. With someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, we'd love for you to be part of this journey. Thank you, truly, for listening. And remember, sometimes, just holding someone's hand can change their whole life. I'll see you in the next story. Daniel.